gentlemen, welcome to the Activity Call Live. Now, let's hear it for our special guest host, Marcus Richardson.
Thank you, Billy. Thank you, Billy. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in to this activity call on June 6, 2025. And I'm excited. I'm excited for, one, God waking me up this morning on the right side of the dirt. Two, I'm excited about living life and getting to do life with Carla, the bride of my youth. We have been married 21 years, and it is getting better and better every day. I'm excited about being a part of the Alliance family. I'm excited about going out to Cabo next week for all the hard work and effort that we put in 2024. I'm watching that video, right? I'm looking at Thailand like, man, that's going to be awesome. Now, those who don't know, we've had the Thailand trip scheduled twice, and we have not been able to make it yet as the Alliance family. So I've won Thailand twice, but I'm going to win it again this year so we can go to Thailand and we can have those experiences. And when I look at that, what Andy and Jane have put together is just such an incredible blessing to be a part of it, that they allow us to serve alongside with them. They allow us to be able to have these experiences and really just stretch and broaden our horizons. So I'm fired up. My hair's not on fire, Noel, but I'm fired up. I'm excited about just God's goodness. I'm excited to be able to talk to you this morning about some things that are on my heart, things that they asked us to share in regards to the host. But my goal today, I hope you get excited. I hope no matter where you are when you're watching this, if you're watching this live, you watch this later, you watch this down the road, that it's something that'll speak to your heart, not just your head, and that it will help you get to the level of where you know you can get to, and the places and positions that God has created you to walk in. So let's go ahead and get into it today. Thank you, Andy. Thank you, Jane, for asking us to host the call. Looking forward to seeing you guys next week in Cabo and hug your neck and love on you guys. But let's go ahead and get into it. So the topic that we have today is leading in the dark, influence. What does that actually look like? And so I have a lot of information that I want to give you in this short 60 minutes, that we get to share with you this Friday morning. So leading in the dark, the first thing I want to talk about is dark, because a lot of times people think that the dark is a bad thing. The dark is not a bad thing. We all have darkness. We all have dark seasons in our life. One of a really good book, right? Tim Grover talks about embracing the dark. It's the book that Tim Grover wrote about Kobe Bryant and Michael Jordan and kind of their attributes and their habits and the things that they take. So Michael Jordan, I don't know where you are on the side of who's the greatest, right? But arguably one of the greatest basketball players of all time. But the part that people don't see is what happened to Michael Jordan when he got cut from his high school basketball team, right? What work did Michael Jordan put in after he was hit with disappointment that made him the greatest person, the greatest basketball player of all time, right? We don't know that. But what I do know is that when he came out in the light and the light was on, the light shined the brightest, he won 6 championships, right? Never went to a game 7. But it was the work that Michael Jordan put in that we didn't get to see that made us rock Jordan shoes, right? That made us rock Jordan apparel, that made us look at Jordan like, man, this guy is something to be reckoned with. We still talk to him about this day, but it was the disappointment that he had in the dark. And then when he was hit with that disappointment, what did he do? So my question for you to open this question out, okay, when we're starting this here, is what are you doing when no one's watching? Mm-hmm. Yeah. What are you doing when you think no one is watching? When you're hit with disappointment, or you have a setback in your personal life, you have a setback in your business, you have a setback at home, right? What do you do when adversity hits you when no one's watching? Because here's what I know. That is only for a season. God created seasons and times in order that there will always be change. There will always be things happening and always be things moving, and it won't always be like this. But the question is, when you're in those dark moments, what are you doing when no one is watching? And here's one of the things I had to learn, and I learned it the hard way, is that someone's always watching. Yep. My favorite book says that his eyes are on the good and the evil, and he sees all things. So even when I don't think anyone's watching, right? Even when I don't think anyone's looking, God sees. And one of the things that I really want to encourage you is to go inside internally and say, okay, even though I'm not getting the applause, even though I'm not getting that a boy, even though I'm not hearing You're doing a great job. Keep going, right? What do you do when no one's looking? And those are the questions that you have to have with yourself. Most people don't like to sit with themselves in the dark because they don't like themselves. They've never had to deal with the reality of who they really are and who they want to be. But I'm going to encourage you today, when you get off of this and you got free time, just take some time to sit down in the dark and ask yourself, who am I? Who do I want to be? What does that look like? What kind of life do I want to create? Well, why did God put me here? What's my purpose, right? Who are you in the dark? So, couple key nuggets I want to hit you with real quick. So, leadership starts in private, but it manifests itself in public. I'm gonna say that one more time. Leadership starts in private, and really what it is, it's a decision. And leadership first starts with you. It starts with the thoughts that you think, it starts with the attitude that you have, and then it's displayed in the actions that you take. A lot of times people think leadership is when you're on the stage or you're on the platform or you're on a Friday call or you're on a Wednesday call or people are watching you. No. Leadership started for me when I made a decision to say yes. Leadership started for me when I said, you know what? If I don't work, Adriel and Maya don't eat. That leadership started with me when I said, hey, I got to stop blaming other people for the reason why I'm not successful. I got to stop blaming other people for the reason why I'm not where I would like to be in life. And I have to own it. I have to own it in my personal life. I have to own it in my business. I have to own it in my marriage. I have to own it with raising my kids. These are all some of the things that God has entrusted to me. But leadership starts with a decision. So what kind of leader do you want to be? What are the decisions that you're making right now in the dark that are going to manifest itself in public? My favorite book also says that there's nothing that is done in the dark that will not come to the light. Nothing. So that thing you're watching, that thing you're doing, if you don't want anybody to know about it, you probably should stop doing it, right? If you don't want them to look at your phone and then you feel some kind of way because your stuff is exposed, you probably don't want to do it, right? Or if you know that there's something you're supposed to be doing but you're not doing it, why are you not doing it? We really got to ask ourselves those questions, because here's what I know. We are all a sum total of the decisions we have made up to this point. So if we don't like where we are, we can make decisions, right? And I'm not saying this as if I'm talking to you as if I'm perfect. I'm not saying this as if my business is where I would like for it to be, because it's not, right? But here's what I know is that I'm willing to do the hard work in the dark because I know that the fruit is coming. Are you willing to do the hard work in the dark because you trust that the fruit will yield and it will give you increase and that whatever you do will prosper, right? But you got to know that, hey, if I put in the work, the fruit is going to follow. Another key point, and I'm probably going to drill on this one, spend some time here. When it comes to winning in the dark, it's not about titles, right? Junior board member, executive vice president, chairman's council, CEO, CFO, COO, all the different titles, right? Bishop, pastor, man of God. It's not about the titles. It's about your character. Who am I when no one sees? Because your character builds trust. It builds trust in your marriage. It builds trust in your relationships. It builds trust in your team. When you say you're going to do something, do you do it? So don't worry about the titles. Don't worry about what they call you. The biggest thing you can focus on, or we can focus on, is the character, the decisions I'm making when no one is watching. Now, like I said, I'm not perfect. I'm not telling you as if I've made all the right decisions, because I haven't, right? And you can ask my wife and she'll tell you, yeah, he hasn't, right? One of the things I do work on every day, though, is I want to be a little bit better today than I was yesterday. I want to be a little bit better husband, a better leader to my wife. I want to be a little bit better father to my children. I want to be a little bit better business owner to those who are counting on me to cut their paychecks. I want to be a better mentor to those who are looking up to Marcus that says, hey, you figured this out. Show me how to figure it out, right? I want to be a better friend to the people that count on me, right? Andy, Jane, the people who look to me to say, hey, Marcus, we need other leaders to lead. I want them to know that they never have to worry about if Marcus is going to come to an event. They never have to worry about, is Marcus reading tonight, right? They never have to worry about, is he asking his people to do those things? That's the kind of person that I want to be. But I made that decision. Honestly, I made that decision before I even met Andy. I made that decision as I was growing in life when I was 20 years old. I said, you know what? I want to be someone that people like to be around. I want to be someone that at the end of the day, when people leave my presence, they say, hey, I feel like he's added value to me. And if I'm not doing that, I haven't done my job. But you know, when I made that decision, I made that decision when I was down and out. I made that decision when all the chips were stacked against me and it looked like I wasn't going to win. I made that decision when all the cards were stacked against me and I shouldn't be where I am today. I said, you know what? One decision can change my life. One decision can change my business. One person can change my business. And so here's my challenge again to you. Will you make the decision to keep going in the dark seasons of your life? Right. And dark doesn't mean a bad thing. It means a transition because after every night, there's a day. Right. And I love, again, it says his mercies are new every morning. So if I don't like what I got the previous day, if I don't like the results that I put in the previous day, we have a new day, right? Night is only for a moment. Weeping may endure for a night, right? But joy comes in the morning. And I thank God for his joy because joy is eternal. Happiness is temporary, right? I'm happy that I got a $10,000 paycheck. I'm sad that I got a $10,000 chargeback. But joy says, whether I get a $10,000 commission or a $10,000 chargeback, I still have joy in that which is unchanging, which is my relationship in God, and joy that I still get to impact other people, joy that I still get to help other people, right? Joy that I'm married to the most beautiful woman in the world. Like those things are eternal and they don't change. And so that's where that comes from. Now, let's get into this because I think this is important. I'm probably going to spend a lot of time here because I think it sets the stage for what we do in the dark. So if you're taking notes, write this down. We're going to talk about character over charisma. Character is built in the dark when no one is looking. Charisma is when everybody can see. So charisma gets attention, but character earns trust. Do you just want to get attention or do you really want to earn trust? Like Stephen Covey's book, The Speed, people move at the speed of trust, right? When you're building a business, people who trust you will move faster because you've already got that trust in place, right? So charisma gets attention. And very charismatic, you're right. We can be very charismatic. I can be very charismatic at times. But then there's sometimes my wife is like, but your words don't match, Marcus. And so we always have to continue to work on making our words and our actions line up. That's character. Okay. Character earns trust. In the dark is when character is forged. Character sustains influence. Say that one more time. Character sustains influence. So influence is leadership. I love the way John Maxwell says it. Leadership is influence. Influence really is how many people can you get to follow you. And a true leader doesn't look for followers. A true leader does not seek followers. A true leader seeks serving other people and followers will come. Right? We don't have to go in and say who's following me. I know they got all this stuff on social media and they're wondering about the followers and the likes. And we don't have to do that. True leadership says, I'm going to add value to people everywhere I go. And then the people that see the value add of my life and being in connection with me or us being in connection with them, then they're going to want to follow and go where we are going. That's why I love Andy so much is he never asked me to follow him. He just showed me his character. And it's because of his character over the last 13 years that I have been consistent in following him. Not perfect, but consistent in following his character. Why? Because I trust that the decisions he's making are in the best interest of all of us. And it's not just best interest for him because his character, when I first met him, I didn't know his character. I just trusted in blind faith. But over the years, consistency, consistent decisions, consistency, and that has shown character. And now we're reaping the rewards and reaping the benefit of that character. So it builds trust. Another thing with character, private decisions shape public reputation. My favorite book says, a good name is to be chosen rather than great riches, loving favor rather than silver and gold. What does that mean, Marcus? Your character is who you actually are. Your reputation is who people think you are. I'll say that one more time. Your character is who you actually are in the dark when no one's watching, when the lights are off, 2 o'clock in the morning, right? 12 o'clock midnight, right? 8 o'clock, 8 o'clock in the morning, 5 o'clock in the morning. That's who you really are. But your reputation is who people think you are. And what happens is when we don't have good character, then our reputation eventually gets compromised. And so now when you show up, people don't want you around. Or have you ever been around someone that just like they creep you out? Like they're just making you like, I don't really trust my family around them. I don't trust them, right? Their character is not good. But when you see them from a distance, you're like, oh, that person's cool, right? Or they say something like this: "It's you never want to meet your heroes because they might let you down, right?" Because when you see your heroes on YouTube or you see your heroes on stage and you see your heroes, if that hero is looking good from stage, but they don't have good character, when you meet them, you will find out their character. Who are you showing up as, right? Here's another question you can ask yourself when it comes to character. Would I be proud if this choice was exposed? If the answer to that is no, stop doing it. We all have been guilty of it in whatever area it is, but I'm here to encourage you today. You ready? So here's what a couple things I want to give you on character. You are a business owner. You are a self-employed salesperson. You're an entrepreneur. No one is going to make you wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning. No one's going to make you go to bed at midnight. No one's going to make you tune into a Friday call. No one's going to make you jump on a Wednesday call. No one's going to make you read 10 pages before you go to bed. No one's going to make you do that. It's your decision to have character that makes you do that. And then you reaffirm that decision every time you take those actions. And then when you take those actions, it builds your self-esteem. And then it builds your self-image. And then it helps you produce at a higher level. But no one's going to make you do those things. It takes character that says, you know what? No one's watching whether I'm on a Friday call. No one's watching whether or not I'm on, but we can tell, you know why? We can tell you're not reading, your sales plummet, your attitude stinks. People don't want to be around you. We can tell, right? And so that is based on what you were doing in the dark when no one was watching. Another definition. So here's some definitions of character. So character is a commitment to a set of values without compromise. Character is a commitment to a set of values without compromise. What are values? It says values are the regard that something is held to deserve, that it deserves, the importance or worth or usefulness of something, that which is important to you. So in simple, your values, what's important to you? You say you value your marriage, but you're sleeping around with your wife. You say you value people, but you don't talk to people that don't have any benefit to you. You say you value business, right? But you don't actually pick up the phone and call leads. You don't actually pick up and reach out to your friend. You say you value creating passive income, but you're not doing the things it takes to generate passive income, right? So if that is the case, really what we have to check is our character, which is shown through our actions. So it's a commitment to a set of values without compromise. So if a person tells you, I want to sell 10,000 a week, but they don't order leads. They don't get a subscription. They don't pay for seminars. They don't do anything necessary, right? They don't have a set schedule. They don't have times to call. They don't have times to run appointments. Then it's a lot of words, but there's no corresponding action. Character is when your actions and your words match and you stay consistent over a long period of time. Right? So my question would be, what is your character? Are you saying one thing and doing another? Or are you saying one thing and sticking to what it is that you're saying? And again, I'm not saying this as if I'm perfect, because I'm not, right? There are things that I would like to do that I don't always do. And then the things that I don't want to do, I find myself doing. But the key is, how can I shorten that gap, right? Character is this. Character is this. It allows people to trust you. We talked about that. But character is the dedication to a set of standards without wavering. What are your standards? My standard, I wake up at 5 a.m., right? That's one of my standards. My standards is I have a set schedule and calendar, and I work that schedule. right? Those are my standards. My standards is I love my wife. I love my God. I love my children. I love my friends. I love my family, right? Those are my standards. So what are your standards? Because you'll rise and fall to the standards you set for yourself. And then that's character. And then once you set your standards, never violate your standards. Not for yourself, not for anyone else. There's people who will try to pull you off your standards. There's distractions that come that try to pull us off our standards. But once you have your character says, I'm going to live to my standards because that is how I see myself. Another one for character. Character is self-imposed discipline. Self-imposed discipline. I was watching the call with Joseph and Sarah and Noel, which they did a phenomenal job on Wednesday. If you hadn't had a chance to watch that, go back and watch that. But behind Joseph, he has this big poster. He has this big thing on the back. And I love every time Joseph saw him because he takes it and he does it from that scene. And it says, discipline equals freedom. Without discipline, there's no freedom. If you want freedom, you must be disciplined in your schedule, disciplined in your thoughts, disciplined in your behavior, disciplined in your actions. If you're not disciplined, you will not produce the freedom that you're looking for. Another way of looking at it, character is self-imposed discipline. What are some self-imposed things that you're doing to get you to where you would like to go? So self-imposed, for example, there are things that I can do, I just don't do. Not everything is good for me. So I have chosen certain things in certain areas to stay away from in my life because that's a self-imposed restriction that I put on myself because I want to stay disciplined. What are some self-imposed restrictions that we need to put on ourselves in order to grow a business? Some self-imposed restrictions that we need to put on ourselves in order to win this Thailand trip. Some self-imposed restrictions that we need to put on ourselves in order to really take this to the next level and blow the top off. And I'm still working through it every day. You're still working through it every day. And then some of those self-imposed restrictions is planning, writing out a plan, and then executing that plan every single day. Having your goals down. Brian Tracy's book on goals is really phenomenal. But what I love that it says, what's one action you can take today that will help you get closer to the goal that you set? One action. What's one action I can take today that helps me get closer to the goal that I've set? And then are those goals, and here's the other thing, in alignment with my standards? Are those goals in alignment with my values? Are those goals in alignment with my purpose for the reason which God put me here on this earth? And so if it's not, that's where you got to go in the dark. That's when you got to sit with yourself and ask yourself some of those tough questions. What is it that I really want? Why am I here? Why am I working with the Alliance? What am I trying to achieve? Why did God give us work? How can I work and how can I use this work to glorify God? Like those are some questions that I ask myself in the dark seasons and then spending time answering those questions. Okay. So character, self-imposed discipline. Here's what character does too. Remember, character over charisma. Character protects your future and it protects your gifts. When you don't have character, you compromise your future. Some of us know people right now, but I'm speaking for myself. I know people right now behind bars. I know people that have lost their insurance license because they didn't have character. Yep. I know people from where I grew up from, great potential, but lacked character. And because they lacked character, they're paying the consequences for their lack of character. Your gift is what it says will make room for you, but your character is what will keep you. So your gift will get you in the room, right? Your gift will make room for you. It'll open up doors for you, but it's your character over charisma that will keep you in that room, right? Because charisma is just compelling. It's attractive, right? Charisma is the divinely conferred power within, but your character is what keeps you in. It's what keeps you doing the right thing when no one's looking. It's what keeps you being accountable to what you said you were going to do when you said you were going to do it with no one asking you to do it, with no one watching you. Because remember, we're self-employed, right? There's no one that's going to say, get up, it's 5 a.m. Get up, make sure your leads are printed. Get up, make sure your interviews are scheduled. Get up, make sure you have these things on your calendar. No one's going to do that. So in the dark, It takes us making a decision that says, you know what, this is what I want. And so my character says, I'm going to do the things necessary in order to make sure that becomes a reality. Character. Okay. Another thing for character. I know I'm beating up character pretty tough, but I think it's so important when we talk about leading in the dark and winning in the dark, because if you don't have character, you have nothing. And here's what it says. Character is the consistent effort to integrate your words, deeds, and actions. That word integrate, it means to become one. Your words, your deeds, and your actions. One of the biggest confirmations, or one of the biggest things that God says about himself, is called the Hebrew Shema. He says, "Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God is one." What does that mean? That means that God is integrated. God has character. That means that you are made in the image of God. Okay. And so when we are made in the image of God, that's why he says, "Be holy, for I am holy." That word holy, it doesn't mean some fancy religious word. It doesn't mean speaking in tongues. It doesn't mean having your collar backwards or wearing the big hats. It doesn't mean not wearing no makeup, not wearing no fingernail polish. That's why not what holy means. Holy means integrated. It means one. It means character. So when he says, "Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God is one," he's really showing you that our God has character, meaning that his words, his deeds, and his actions are all integrated. So when God speaks, we can trust it. Are your words, are your actions, are they all one? Are you integral when no one's watching, right? Are you following through with what it is that you said you were going to do? Do you have your ticket to the next event when you say you're going to follow the 8 steps, right? The next event's July 17th. I'd say 17th. I'm going for the estate planning, right? Through that weekend of the 20th. Are you integrated in the thoughts, right? If you're watching this, my question for you would be, are you integrated in what you're saying, what you're thinking, and what you're doing? Because we're made in God's image. Genesis 1:26, one of my favorite verses in the Bible. It says, God said, "Let us make man in our own image, after our own likeness," right? And then he said, "Let them have dominion." That word for image is the same word for character. Let us make man in our own character. Yep. Character. That's how important it is to God. Its character is so important to God, and what we do in the dark is so important to God, that God, think about this for a second. God gave character before he gave dominion. Mm-hmm. A lot of people want to have dominion, but they don't have the character to manage the dominion that God gave them. We can't rule over a larger territory because we don't have the character it takes to hold that character, to hold that territory. Or it said another way. It says, if you're faithful over a little bit, you'll be faithful over much. But if you're not faithful over a little bit, if you don't have character over the little things, you'll never get to rule over the big things. So the first thing is leading yourself. Are you committed to your own character? Are you committed to your own choices? What would that like? What would my life look like if I lived with character every single day? Right? Who would I help? What would that look like? Because character will take you where nothing else can take you. Character will keep you when nothing else will keep you. Character is so critical. And it's one of the things I'm so thankful for Andy and Jane, is that they've been married 30 plus years, I think almost 35 years. That's character. It hasn't always been peachy, but I can look at their marriage and say, you know what? They've got something figured out. That's character. And I want that. And because they have that, they can show us how to get that. And so that's character. And then here's two more things, and I'll get off of this soapbox. Hopefully it's blessing you. Hopefully you're enjoying this. But here's what I want to hit you with. You lead with your life, and your life is the weight of your words. I'll tell you this. One time my daughter was talking to me. My daughter, Maya, she's so profound. And we were having an intense conversation. And here's what she told me, y'all. And I'll never forget this. I want to say, so she's 16. She just turned 16. At the time when Maya told me this, she was 13. So it was about 3 years ago. And here's what she told me. Remember, lead with your life. Your life is the weight of your words. So you got to have character even at home, because it protects your words. So here's what my daughter told me. She said, "Dad, you keep apologizing, but apology without change is just manipulation." I said, "Oh." So what my daughter was telling me is that, "Dad, you're apologizing, but you're not changing your behavior." So how I took that as a dad is that I need to show character even at home. It's not just about apologizing for what we've done wrong. It's about making the necessary changes. So I'm trying to be transparent and vulnerable. So you know that I'm not speaking from some pedestal as if I've got it all together, because I don't. I don't have it all figured out. But one thing I do know is that when God shows something to me, I'm going to repent and do my best to get it together. And so when Maya said that, it hit me like a ton of bricks. She said, apology without change is just manipulation. How I took that as her dad is that I need to still work on my character, not putting myself in a position where I need to apologize. Or when I put myself in that position for apology, once I apologize for that specific thing, don't keep making that same decision over and over again. Right. And so that's when it comes to character, we lead with our life. Leadership is visual. And so those decisions, though, are always made in the dark when no one's watching. So again, I didn't have to share that story with you, but I think that story is relevant because I don't want to talk to you as if I'm someone perfect. I want to talk to you as if I'm someone that's still trying to figure this out just like you, and we can figure it out together. And we have an environment that we've built here at the Alliance that will allow you to grow to any capacity you want to, as fast as you want to, or as slow as you want to, but it's going to be done in the dark. Right. And then as that tree is growing, as it begins to grow, we get to see the fruit of the decisions that you've made. But we don't get to see those decisions if you quit. We don't get to see those decisions if you throw in the towel. Right. But people who quit on life, people who quit on their marriage, people who quit on their friends, people who quit on those who count on them, they lack character. They don't see vision. They don't have purpose. So make these decisions in the dark that says, you know what? So for me, 13 years ago, when I saw the Alliance and I saw Andy in Dallas, I said, these are people that I want to grow with. These are people that I want to serve with and that I want to help. I made that decision when I had no money. I made that decision when all hell was breaking out at home. I made that decision when I was paying to go to events on credit cards that I had I was maxed out. I didn't wait to make that decision when I got a microphone and I got on the stage. I made that decision when I was on food stamps and state assistance and said, you know what? These are my people. I'm going to rock with these people. Now, it hasn't always been perfect, but what it has been is it's been an incredible journey. And we made a decision that says, because these are my people, I'm going to do everything I can to get better, to add value to these people. That's character. And then John Wooden says it like this, and we'll go to our next point. John Wooden says this. The famous basketball coach, won the most championships with UCLA basketball. John Wooden says, the true test of a man's character is what he does when no one is watching. Also sounds like integrity, right? Integrated character. Our words, our actions, they're all one and they all match up. All right, character over charisma. Here's what we want to talk about. Next point. Private discipline fuels public strength. Great leaders are made in quiet places. Quiet places. So a couple examples I want to give you. One, my favorite book says, be still and know that I am God. Psalm 46:10. That be still, that means to wait, to wait on God. The same person who wrote this in Psalm 46:10 was the same one who was the most prominent king of Israel. His name was David. A quick story on David. David was the least of his brothers. God had anointed Saul as king. Saul disobeyed. God took the kingdom from him because Saul did not have character. Saul decided to disobey because of his lack of character, because here was Saul's problem. Saul loved the praise of people more than he loved the praise of God. And he was more worried about the people and what they thought about him than he was about God. Are we in a position where we're more trying to please people, or are we trying to please God? Because if you're a people pleaser, you'll never fulfill the mission for what God put you on the earth for. So Saul's problem was that he was more worried about the people. Are you more worried about pleasing the people in your life than you are about obeying the one who created you? That was Saul's problem. So God rips the kingdom from him. Now, David is a little shepherd boy. God sends a prophet, Samuel, and says, I have chosen another man that's after my own heart, and he is in Jesse's house. I want you to go anoint a king. So David goes, and as David gets there, Samuel goes, and as Samuel gets to Jesse's house, he says, bring out your sons. So he brings out all his sons. They're handsome. They're beautiful. And Samuel makes a statement, and here's what he says. he says, surely this must be God's anointed. And God speaks to Samuel and he says, no. And here's what I want you to catch, because this goes back to character. Here's what God said to him. He said, man looks on the outward appearance, on when the bright lights are on, when everything looks good. Man looks on the outward appearance, but God looks on the heart. God looks at the character, right? And he said, none of these have I chosen. And so Jesse's talking, all the sons are out there. He says, these are my sons. And then Samuel said, nope, you got to have another one. And Jesse's like, well, I do have another one, but it's David. He's out there in the sheep field. He's out there in the pastures, feeding the sheep and taking care of the sheep. And so David was like an outcast. He wasn't like the rest of his brothers. The Bible says that he was ruddy, he was small, right? But he was handsome. But he wasn't in there with the fold with the rest of the group. And so Samuel says, go get him. We'll wait until David comes. So David comes out and the Lord speaks and he says, this is a man after my own heart. This, not that David was perfect, but David's character is that David wanted to honor God. When did David learn that? He learned that when he was out in the fields playing his harp and no one wanted to hear him, when he was still in the dark before God, when he had to go rescue the sheep from the lion, when he had to go rescue the sheep from the bear, when he was in those dark moments of his life, when you were in your dark moments of your life, when you were down and out and everyone counted you out and all the chips were stacked against you. This is when David made decisions. And then David starts walking in, he's anointed, but he doesn't walk into his kingship yet. And so he's still serving in the house of Saul. He's using what he learned in the dark. He's using his gift to minister to Saul. And here's what happens in the dark, David's character, where it begins to show, okay? David had, when Saul was chasing him, opportunities to kill Saul, the king. But David was already anointed king. But David's character said, I will not touch God's anointed, and I will do his prophets no harm. That's character. He could have killed Saul multiple times, but he decided not to. He made that decision because of his character. So now here's what I'm trying to get to is David learned these things when he was still before God. And then when he goes out to face Goliath, all the children of Israel are out there. They're scared of Goliath. Goliath is taunting them. He's coming in. He's saying, I'm defying the armies of God. And then David says, who is this uncircumcised Philistine that dare defy our God? Right? So private discipline. So David's private discipline led to his public strength is what I'm getting to. So here's what he says. He goes to Saul. He says, I'll fight the giant for you. Saul tells him the rewards. David says, okay, I'll go. So he tries to put on Saul. They put Saul's armor on him. And then David eventually says, I can't use Saul's armor because that's not what I'm familiar with. That's not what I did in private. A lot of times we get so busy trying to put on other people's clothes. I know we teach here at the Alliance to copy. We want to copy success, but you can't be that person. You got to be you. I got to be Marcus. You got to be you, right? I can't be Terry. I can't be Andy. I can't be Riddle. I can only be Marcus, but I got to do it the way God has given for me to do it. So what David does is he says, I'm going to take off all the stuff that you were trying to put on me, and I'm going to do it the way God has given to me when I was private discipline before God. And here's what he says. He says, the same God that delivered me from the lion, that delivered me from the bear, will give this uncircumcised Philistine unto me. So David, in his private life, his private discipline, when he was using his sling, when he was killing those things that were trying to take the lambs and take the sheep, he used the things he learned in private, and it was his weapon to bring him to public success. Are you using the stuff you've learned in private, the things you've went through, the bankruptcy, the divorce, the failure of other businesses, the things that didn't go so well in your childhood? All those things are things that God uses. So that way, when you get to stages like this, you can use those setbacks. You can use those things that set you up. And the enemy thought he was using it to take you out. But God uses that just as a setup to propel you to where he wants you to go. But you got to stay in the fight. You got to stay with us. You can't throw in the towel, because if you throw in the towel, we never get to see your public strength. If David would have been like the rest of the people, we would have never heard about David. David would have never walked into his destiny. We can't afford to sacrifice and be like everybody else. We got to do it the way God said, because he was disciplined in private. So let's get to some practicals. You ready? Discipline builds clarity and consistency. So my question would be, what are some of your daily disciplines? Let me give you some of mine. Your morning routine. What's your morning routine? What time do you get up every single morning? Now, here's the key. It's not just about getting up early, but what are the productive things you can do when you get up early? I was watching the call on Wednesday, and I love how Sarah shared. I love their transparency, by the way, but how Sarah said that she journals. I'm also a journaler, but that is stuff that she developed in private, right? So your morning routine, what are your morning routines that help you build consistency? When you wake up in the morning, do you first thing you do grab your phone, right? Jump on social media, or do you wake up in the morning and say, you know what, I'm gonna spend quiet time. I'm going inside, dealing with my goals, dealing with where I want to get to. For me, spend quiet time with God, spend quiet time in prayer in God's presence, reading and making sure I get my mind right for the day. Because I feel like if I don't spend time with God, I'm a mess for the rest of the day. So for me, those are some of the morning routines. Writing down, one of the things you can do in the morning is, or you can do it at night before you go to bed, writing down all the things you're trying to accomplish in this day so you're prepared for when the day sets out and the day doesn't get away from you, right? Those are some morning routines, right? Studying, your health, making sure you're in shape, making sure your fitness is where it needs to be. Now, here's the beautiful thing about this is that these things are not glamorous or not sexy, but over a period of time, they begin to develop. And then as they develop, then it becomes something that people begin to see like there's something different about these people. Is because of their morning routines. It's because of their daily habits that they put in place so they can become who they've decided to become. But they do that by doing it in the dark, in private, when no one's watching. Because here's what I know, as you're doing those things, it prepares you, and your routines prepare you, and it prepares you for opportunity. My grandpa, my pops OJ always said, opportunity only comes before preparation in the dictionary. Are you preparing for your opportunity? Are you preparing for destiny? I have been preparing for this, right? Are you preparing for your opportunity? Are you prepared to start helping those clients that have a higher net worth? Are you prepared? You gotta prepare. Are you prepared to help those agents that God is sending to us? Are you prepared? Right? Your private victories precede public victories. Real leaders build trust through consistency, not the applause, but because it's the right thing to do. So here's another thing, some examples of your habits and your routines, right? We talked about waking up early, studying when others are relaxing. Are you studying? Are you studying our industry? Are you studying what it is to sell higher cases, the IULs, the annuity? Are you studying those things, how to run seminars, if that's where you want to take your business? Are you studying how to be effective when it comes to the sales side of things? Are you studying how to be effective to get people to move, right? What are you doing? Are you studying when everyone's relaxing? Because that's when we get to see the fruit, right? Next thing is here, practicing presentations and calls or pitches. Are you practicing those things? Because here's another quote. Here's how I heard it said: amateurs do something until they get it right, but professionals do something until they can't get it wrong. I'm gonna read that one more time. Amateurs do something until they get it right, but professionals do something until they cannot get it wrong. Which one are you? Are you going to be an amateur or are you going to be a professional? You get to decide that in the quiet time when no one's looking. And here's another example is the basketball players, right? An amateur gets up 50 shots in the gym, 500 shots in the gym. That's an amateur, right? The professional says, I'm not leaving the gym until I make 500 shots. That's the difference between a Steph Curry, right? And someone else. Like Steph Curry makes it look easy. Kobe Bryant made it look easy, right? I know that I cannot do what Steph Curry, I cannot pull up from the logo. I can't do that, right? But that's because he's made 500 shots in a day and he's consistent with it. Let me take it to our business. Are you making 500 phone calls or are you making 500 contacts? There's a difference. I made 500 phone calls, Marcus. That's good. But did you make 500 contacts? There's a huge difference. That means you're going to have to make more phone calls. The amateur makes 500 calls. The professional says, I'm going to make 500 contacts and I'll make that in a week. I'm going to make that in 2 weeks, right? Whatever that is that you set for yourself. But they decide that and then they execute when no one's looking. All right. Now, as we're going through here, as you're building this and you're leading yourself and you're leading in the dark, I want to share this with you because so much social media is out nowadays. We're looking for the likes. We're looking for the applause. But service is service without applause. And I have been guilty of this because of some of my own childhood traumas where we want to hear, good job, that a boy, great, great work, right? And don't get me wrong, everybody loves recognition, right? People will run through a brick wall, people will die for recognition. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, I'm going to serve whether you recognize it or not. I'm going to serve my wife. I'm going to bring her flowers. I'm going to do the things that she needs. Why? Not because I want her to say, good job, Marcus, but because I know there's someone who's watching. There's someone that I'm going to give an account to. And when I do, he's going to say, what did you do with what I gave you? Your wife, your children, the opportunities I gave you, the business, the people I put in your life. So I'm helping and serving, not because I want you guys to say good job. Don't get me wrong, it feels good, right? But that's not why we do this. I do this because it's a gift that God has given me to share with the world. I serve Carla because she's a gift that God has given me. If he that finds a wife finds a good thing and obtains favor from the Lord, she's my good thing. And because she's my good thing, I'm going to serve her, right? He's entrusted me with Adriel and Maya. I'm going to serve them. He's entrusted me when they give me an hour to speak to you here at the Alliance or we get time on stage. That's something that Andy has entrusted to us. I'm not doing it for the applause. I'm doing it to help. I'm doing it because I want you to be better. I want you to be the best version of yourself because of something that we share, right? That's why we have these calls. That's why we do this, is so that we can help you. So are you willing to serve without the applause? Are you willing to serve when no one's watching, right? What does that look like? That means that when I'm at home, I'm serving my wife. You guys don't see that. I don't need you to see it. God sees it, right? When I'm at home making the phone calls, God sees it. I'm not working so you guys can see it. I'm working because God sees it. And sometimes I'm not happy with my work. I'm not satisfied with my work. But God says, son, I see what you're doing. Keep doing it. Keep staying steady. Keep staying the course. And then here's what I know. When I'm prepared for the blessing comes. But you got to be prepared for the blessing because if not, it will destroy you. Leadership is service, not spotlight. Leadership is service, not spotlight. My favorite book also says the greatest among you will be servant of all. If you want to be great, serve. How can I serve you? How can I help you? But if you're not a person of value, right? If you're not reading every day, if you're not listening to things that are going to help grow you and then applying those things that you listen to and read, you are not in a position where you can add value to other people. Do the right thing without recognition. And here's the other thing. Serve people who can't repay you. I heard the call. I was on the call yesterday on the ITS call, the estate planning call. And that story that Bob West told, if you guys aren't on those calls and you're not doing the estate planning, it was such a powerful story. It wasn't that the clients could do anything for Bob. They had canceled their policies, but Bob West still did a phenomenal job serving those people. And it's stories like that. That's true leadership, Bob. Like it's stories that say, you know what? Even though she couldn't do a whole lot for me, he still was able to help her implement the trust. Mo and his team was able to help them do what they did. Like it's stories like that that reaffirm I'm with the right people. This is why I want to serve. This is why I want to help because I hear what they're doing and how they're making a difference and the impact they're making in other people's lives. That is what we do. We serve other people without the pat on the back, without the people that can repay us, right? We help the people. Like when I'm thinking about this, when I first got started, Andy had not just then, but even now, Andy had did so much for me, so much for me. And I wasn't in a position where I could monetarily pay him back. So you know what I did? I said, I'm gonna get to work. I'm gonna call these leads. I'm gonna start selling. I'm gonna start selling 25, 30,000 a month, right? And now I'm trying to take it to the next level where I show other people how to do 20, 30,000 a month. And we build an agency doing 500,000 a month, a million a month. Like that's the goal, right? I'm not where I want to be, but those are the decisions I made in the dark because of everything that's been poured into me. And then your influence grows through humility. I realize I am not here by myself. I would not be able to do what I'm doing and perform at the level I'm performing without God, without my wife's support, my family's support, without Andy and Jane helping and supporting. That's humility. Like, I'm never going to take credit and say, "Oh, look at me, I have arrived." I have not arrived. Now, I've taken off. The plane has left, but I haven't arrived. And none of us arrive until we take our last breath and stand before our maker. That's my personal belief, right? But you got to take off. You got to decide to take off in the dark when no one's watching, right? And say, you know what, I'm gonna continue to do what I've been called to do, what I was born to do. And then here's the questions to ask yourself when it comes to service. 3 questions. So if you're watching this is important. These questions, because these are questions you can ask yourself in the dark. You can journal about it. I do recommend writing it down because it becomes a reality once you write it down. So the first one is, why am I doing this? Why am I on a Friday call watching this guy talk for 60 minutes about stuff I don't care about? I'm just kidding. I'm hoping you're caring about it and it's making a difference, right? But why am I doing this? Why am I with the Alliance? Why am I working? Like, and we can even take it to the core. Like, why are you working? Why are you here with us doing what you're doing? Okay. Next question is what I'm doing now in alignment with my purpose? I've been so fixed on purpose, it's not even funny. Because once you know your purpose, you'll stop the self-destructive behavior. A lot of the self-destructive behavior, even the self-destructive behavior I had in my marriage and other things in my life, was because I didn't understand my purpose. I didn't understand my purpose as a husband to Carla, to cover her, to protect her, to pray for her, to wash her with the word, to dwell with her with understanding so my prayers wouldn't be hindered. I didn't understand the purpose. And so because I didn't understand, and whenever you don't understand your purpose, you'll self-destruct, you'll self-destroy, you'll self-soothe, you'll self-medicate when you don't know your purpose, right? What's your purpose? What's your purpose with the Alliance? The reason you don't pick up the phone, the reason you don't do the seminars, the reason you don't get out your comfort zone, the reason you don't build your business, purpose, lack of clarity. And then, so is it in alignment with my purpose? And then the third question, I kind of hit it already. Do you know your purpose? All right, I got 4 more pages in 8 minutes. So let's go. You ready? So accountability starts with you. Step 7 of the 8 steps. Again, it goes with character, but accountability when no one is watching. One of the things that really helped me when I first started was I used to have to send. So Robbie would help get me leads on the weekend, and I would call my leads. But every single weekend, what I would do is I would send a report of my activity to Robbie and Chris at the time and Andy. And I would send that report, like dials, contacts, appointments, boom, 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 right? And that report helped me stay accountable to someone. Let me say this. All of us are accountable to someone. All of us have to give an answer to someone. You get to choose who you're accountable to. But at the end of the day, all of us are accountable to someone. Either you're going to be accountable now in this life or accountable in the next, but you're accountable to someone. True accountability is internal. It's personal integrity over public image. Live by higher standards than others expect. And then ask yourself, am I aligned with my values when no one is watching? And this is straight out of the Millionaire Maker Manual, and Andy was talking about accountability. What does it mean to be accountable? It means to do what you say you're going to do. It means you are who you say you are. Sound like character to me, doesn't it? And then, did you follow this? And if you're wondering, like, how am I doing on accountability? Here's what you can do. Ask a trusted friend, spouse, significant other, someone who knows you really well. And here's the question you want to ask them. Am I following through on the promises that I have made? You promised to take care of her, to love her. You promised to protect her, to protect your kids. You have a business opportunity that will allow you to do that at a high degree. Are you following through? And then whenever I say this, here's how the Lord deals with me. Judgment always starts at the house first. Am I doing it? Am I in a position where I can speak with moral authority? I don't want to be a hypocrite. I don't want to say one thing and do another, right? So these are questions that I first ask myself. All right. Building a legacy and building it in the shadows, okay? So in the shadows, in the dark, here's what we do. Seeds are sown in secret and they produce public fruit. Those habits, those routines we talked about, waking up early in the morning, reading, getting your mind right, listening to the right audio, making your car roll at university, those are seeds. Those are all seeds. And it takes time for seeds to grow. Here's what happens with a lot of people. They get hit with adversity. They don't make the sales. They don't have their business isn't where they want it to be. It's not growing as fast as they want it to. And then they pull their seed out the ground and go somewhere else. Every time you pull your seed out the ground and you have to replant it, and it takes longer to grow and to germinate to produce a harvest. Stop pulling your seed out of the ground. Make up in your mind that you're not going to quit on yourself, that you're not going to quit on your business, that you're not going to quit on your family, that you're not going to quit on your God, and keep your seed in the ground and let it do what it needs to do. Come to the events, grow, water, germinate, let it grow. Influence is shaped in the small and unseen moments. Every decision contributes to your legacy. Someone is always watching, even if it's just your future self. When I think back now, and sometimes I tell myself, man, knowing what I know now, married 21 years, what would I have told DeMarcus 21 years ago? Right? I've been in this business with Andy for 13 years. What would I tell that Marcus 13 years ago, knowing what I know now? We can always go back and do that. It's in a great book called Personality Isn't Permanent. But you can do that, and you can coach yourself. So here's a couple takeaways, 4 takeaways. Create a personal code of discipline and make small daily non-negotiables. Example, I get up when my alarm goes off. Right when it goes off, I don't hit snooze, right? I make my bed every morning. Now, do I hit snooze sometimes? Yes. But these is what I'm talking about. Create a personal code of discipline. Okay, number 1. Number 2, practice self-leadership, time management, goal setting, planning, self-evaluation. Number 3, seek accountability, like that example I gave you of sending in my report, sending in my numbers every single week. Even when you don't feel like it's needed. There are times where I wrote 10,000 and I didn't send in my numbers, right? Because I knew I had a great week. And then there's times where I didn't write anything and I definitely didn't want to send in my numbers, but do it anyway. Why? Because you're reinforcing that thing that says I'm disciplined. I'm a man. I'm a woman of character. I'm going to continue to do it, right? And then number 4, set standards that don't depend on circumstances or recognition. I'm going to say that one again. Set standards that don't depend on circumstances or recognition, that says no matter what the circumstance is, this is my standard. No matter who sees it, this is my standard. This is what I do, right? I'm going to pray and I'm going to wake up early because that's what I do. That's my standard, right? I'm going to love others because that's my standard. I'm going to love God because that's my standard. I'm going to love people because that's my standard, right? It doesn't matter what the circumstance is. It doesn't matter where I'm at, whether I'm in Cabo, whether I'm in Denver, whether I'm in Thailand. It doesn't matter. That's what I do. That's my standard. Does that make sense? Hopefully it makes sense. And then it has a ripple effect. The ripple effect, people may not see everything you do, but they feel it. They feel the results. So you don't see me waking up at 5 a.m. and spending quiet time with God. But one of my mentors says the greatest gift you can give the world is your intimacy with God. You don't get to see that, but my prayer is that you feel the results of my time that I spent with him. It's like the wind, right? I can't see the wind, but I can feel the effects of the wind. When I'm out walking, I get cold, right? Or we see the tornado, right? We want to be like the wind, where they don't necessarily need to see me, but when I'm done, they're going to feel me. Your quiet commitments give you permission to raise their standards too. Long-term influence is built on the foundation of invisible efforts. All right, to wrap this up, bringing us home, Marcus, I'm landing the plane. The world needs leaders. They need us. The world needs us to live with integrity in the unseen, to prioritize character over image, prioritize character over reputation, and lead from who they are, not what they do. And leadership begins when no one is looking. So my closing challenge as we're wrapping up this call today, thank you again for tuning in. Thank you again for watching this. Whenever you watch this, if you stayed to the end, hopefully I gave you something that inspired you. But here's my challenge. Who are you becoming in the dark? What would change in your life if you lived every moment like someone was watching? And then make one small decision today that aligns with the leader you want to be, even if no one is watching. Make one small decision today to be the leader that you want to be, that walks in your purpose, that says, you know what, I'm going to give it everything I got today, even if no one sees it. Because Colossians 3:23 says it's everything we do it as unto the Lord. For he is the one who sees and will reward us. And I'm paraphrasing that. Hopefully you've enjoyed this call. Hopefully we've talked to you about character and inspired you to go after it. But it's daily decisions every single day, every single moment. Choose this day what you're going to do and who you're going to become. It's Marcus Richardson. I look forward to seeing you on Cabo. And if I don't see you in Cabo, I look forward to seeing you in Burlington, North Carolina, July 17th, baby. Let's go. Family reunion. Looking forward to seeing y'all. Love you.